Have you ever felt a flicker of something wild stirring just beneath the surface of your calmest self? A sudden anger, an unspoken desire, a quiet defiance you quickly suppress. Imagine standing before a mirror, not of glass but of soul, where your hidden impulses, your fears, your untamed instincts stare back. Not to accuse, but to be acknowledged. As Carl Jung once said, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. What if the parts of yourself you've tried hardest to silence are not your enemies, but keys to your wholeness? Today, we step softly into the realm of the hidden self, into the dark forest of our psyche where the monster lives. Not the kind from fairy tales, but the parts of us we label unacceptable: anger, power, craving, envy. These are not flaws to be erased, but aspects of a deeper truth waiting to be integrated. To accept the monster you are is not to become cruel or reckless, but to embrace your humanity fully, with eyes open and heart steady. So, take a breath, let the noise of the world fade, and walk with me into the depths of yourself, where shadows speak and authenticity begins. Carl Jung called it the shadow, the hidden half of the psyche that houses everything we reject, deny, or fear in ourselves. It is not evil in itself, but it often contains impulses and emotions we've learned to hide: anger, jealousy, lust, ambition, even vulnerability. As children, we're taught what's acceptable and what isn't. The rest we bury, but what is buried does not die. It lives on, waiting, shaping our behavior from behind the curtain. Jung warned that if we refuse to face these unconscious parts, they begin to rule our lives without our knowledge. Until you make the unconscious conscious, he said, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Think of the person who prides themselves on being endlessly kind, yet finds themselves resenting others in secret. Or the one who claims to be humble, but quietly craves recognition. These are shadows in action, split-off selves acting in the dark. The more we try to be only good, the more our unlived darkness festers, showing up in projections, outbursts, or passive self-sabotage. But Jung didn't see the shadow as an enemy. He saw it as a guide, a teacher. To confront it is not to become monstrous, but to become whole. Integration means we do not act blindly on our darker urges, but neither do we pretend they're not there. In facing the monster, we reclaim our depth. This confrontation is not always grand or dramatic. It might come in a dream, in a sharp moment of envy, in an uncomfortable conversation where we suddenly feel defensive. These are the doorways, the cracks where the shadow peeks through. But when we meet it with honesty, something changes. We gain clarity, strength. We stop being divided against ourselves. The monster is no longer in the basement of the psyche clawing at the walls. It stands beside us, no longer a threat, but a companion in self-awareness. To Jung, accepting the shadow was the beginning of individuation, the process of becoming truly oneself. And yet, he also understood the danger. He knew that the unconscious is not only a source of healing, but of chaos. And this is where another voice enters the conversation: Friedrich Nietzsche. If Jung invited us to meet the shadow, Nietzsche dared us to become it. And so, from the depths of the psyche, we turn now toward the edge of morality itself, where the monster is not merely hidden, but celebrated. Let us walk there, carefully. Friedrich Nietzsche did not shy away from the darkness within us. He did not merely ask us to acknowledge it. He asked us to stand within it and emerge stronger. For Nietzsche, the so-called beast in us is not a defect to be cleansed, but a force to be understood, and in some sense, revered. He challenged the rigid duality of morality, good versus evil, light versus dark, and urged us to move beyond these categories. In doing so, we begin to see that what we often call monstrous may simply be untamed vitality, stripped of masks. The beast within is not necessarily cruel. It is wild, unapologetic, and powerful, and to deny it is to deny life itself. Consider the image of a lion pacing at the edge of civilization. Strong yet contained by fences of cultural expectation, Nietzsche's call was to break those fences, not through chaos, but through authentic will. He named this capacity the will to power, not domination over others, but mastery over the self, the ability to transform instinct into creation. You must still have chaos in yourself to give birth to a dancing star, he wrote. This chaos is not disorder, it is potential. The beast is the artist, the revolutionary, the thinker unafraid to create values where old ones have collapsed. Nietzsche's Übermensch is one who integrates the monster, not by becoming cruel, but by embracing the full spectrum of human experience with courage and originality. But this journey is perilous. He who fights with monsters, Nietzsche warned, should be careful lest he thereby become a monster. It is a razor's edge to awaken the beast without becoming its slave, to hold fire without being burned. Where Jung urges us to integrate the shadow into consciousness, Nietzsche demands something more radical, that we make meaning from the abyss, not by escaping it, but by dancing upon its edge. To embody this is to be fully alive, not tamed, but truthful. Yet to walk this path, we must first understand why we've feared the beast for so long. What taught us to hide it? What does our fear reveal? In the next step of our journey, we look not into philosophy, but into the patterns of our lives, into the quiet conditioning that keeps the wild parts of us asleep. And we ask, what are we really afraid of when we are afraid of ourselves? Let's continue. We are not born afraid of ourselves. That fear is learned, slowly, quietly, and often without our awareness. From childhood, we receive unspoken messages about what is acceptable and what is not. Be kind, not angry. Be quiet, not demanding. Be good, not wild. And so, we begin to divide ourselves, separating who we are from who we believe we should be. The parts that don't fit the image, the rage, the desire, the defiance, are pushed down into the dark. We do not destroy them, we only exile them. Over time, this internal division deepens, and we mistake our curated self for our whole self. The rest we fear. Carl Jung saw this fear as a necessary but dangerous step in the process of development. The shadow, he believed, forms as a result of our inability to integrate certain traits into our conscious identity. These traits then appear threatening, not because they're inherently harmful, but because they challenge the fragile story we've built about who we are. And so, the beast within becomes the stranger we meet in moments of stress, jealousy, or shame. A man who has always identified as calm may explode in rage when pushed too far. A woman taught to be humble may feel bitter when overlooked. These outbursts are not anomalies, they are messages from the parts we've abandoned. Nietzsche would say this fear is the cost of living under inherited morality. Values not forged by experience, but imposed by culture. To suppress the beast is to choose safety over freedom, appearance over authenticity. But the irony is that the beast, once denied, grows restless. It appears in dreams, in illness, in self-sabotaging choices, and still we retreat. Why? Because to face it is to face the truth that we are not purely good, not fully in control, not always kind. It takes courage to admit this, and more courage to explore what lies beneath. Yet there is a shift that occurs when we stop running, when we turn toward the fear, not with judgment, but with curiosity. We begin to see that the beast is not there to destroy us, it is there to complete us. And if we dare to listen, it begins to speak, not in threats, but in longing, a longing to be seen, to be heard, to be accepted as part of the whole. And so, the next step is not to fight, but to invite. To open the door we've long kept shut and ask, what have I cast into the dark that might, in truth, carry light? From here, the path bends inward, not toward denial or indulgence, but toward integration, toward a way of being that no longer splits good from bad, but holds all things in a deeper harmony. The journey is not over. In fact, it is just beginning. Like a traveler entering the twilight edge of a forest, we now ask not, what must I kill? But what must I welcome home? If these ideas have sparked something within you, feel free to pause and reflect, or share your thoughts quietly with us below. Let's continue. To become whole is not to become perfect. It is to hold all the fragments of oneself, light and shadow, instinct and intellect, desire and restraint, within a single, honest being. This is the heart of Jung's philosophy, integration, not the destruction of the shadow, not the suppression of the so-called beast, but its inclusion in the circle of the self. Jung saw the psyche as a mandala, an unfolding totality, where each part, even the darkest, has a place. Wholeness is not achieved by silencing the chaos, but by making peace with it, understanding it, even learning from it. In practical terms, integration begins in the quiet moments of self-reflection. When anger arises, rather than pushing it away, we ask, what boundary have I not honored? What truth have I swallowed too long? When jealousy stirs, we look not with shame, but with curiosity. What desire is hidden beneath this feeling? What part of me wants to grow? This dialogue with the shadow is not a dramatic confrontation. It is a lifelong conversation. Jung called this active imagination, a practice of entering into relationship with the parts of ourselves we've exiled. Over time, the monster ceases to roar. It begins to speak, and we begin to listen. Nietzsche too spoke of transformation, not through denial, but through creation. The one who can look into the abyss and not flinch becomes the artist of their own soul. To integrate the beast is to claim one's power without letting it devour others. It becomes strength with wisdom, instinct with direction. Just as fire can warm or burn, our darker drives can be destructive or life-giving, depending on how consciously we relate to them. Integration is choosing to carry the fire with care. It is no longer fearing the storm within, but learning how to navigate by its lightning. And so, we arrive at a threshold. We are no longer at war with ourselves, but neither are we finished. The inner world is vast, layered with symbols, stories, and primal energies that speak in dreams and myths. To truly meet the monster is not only psychological, it is archetypal. In the next part of our journey, we descend into the realm of story, the domain of gods, beasts, and ancient trials, where the monster is not just a part of us, but a figure we must face on the path to meaning. Let us step into that mythic forest now, where the language of the soul is told in symbols, and the beast guards something sacred. Long before psychology named the shadow or philosophy named the beast, ancient stories gave us the monster. In every culture, across time, the monster waits at the edge of the map, lurking in caves, guarding treasure, or blocking the hero's path. These myths are not entertainment alone, they are symbolic blueprints of the inner world. Carl Jung believed that these recurring figures, monsters, dragons, serpents, were archetypes, timeless patterns of the psyche that appear in dreams, stories, and rituals. The monster, then, is not a thing to be eradicated. It is a sacred messenger, representing the repressed, the feared, the unmastered within us. To meet it is to begin the true work of transformation. Consider the tale of the Greek hero Perseus, who must face the Gorgon Medusa. She is terrifying, not only because of her serpentine hair and petrifying gaze, but because she reflects the threat of unacknowledged power, of feminine rage exiled from culture. Perseus defeats her not by charging blindly, but by using a mirror, symbolizing reflection, consciousness, awareness. He does not look at her directly, he sees through the symbol. In Jungian terms, this is individuation in mythic form, confronting the monster through awareness, not violence. The real victory lies not in the slaying, but in the seeing. Even in more modern tales, the same structure appears. Think of Beauty and the Beast, where the fearsome creature hides a heart that longs for love, and transformation only happens when he is seen, truly seen, for who he is. Or the dragon in countless legends, guarding gold in the mountain's heart. The dragon is not just an obstacle, it is the guardian of the very treasure we seek. Jung would say that what we need most is often hidden behind the thing we fear most. The monster, then, is not a mistake. It is part of the journey, part of the soul's design. These myths echo Nietzsche's challenge too. One must have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star. Chaos is the dragon, the dancing star is what comes after. The monster is the trial that reveals what we are capable of becoming, but only if we stop running. Only if we turn inward, sword sheathed, eyes open. And in doing so, we see not just the monster, but ourselves in its form. It is not there to destroy us, it is there to test us, to shape us, to wake us up. And so, we come full circle, from the darkness of instinct to the light of understanding, from exile to return. But what now? What does it mean to live with the monster, not as a foe, but as a companion? To walk each day with the knowledge of the shadow and still choose awareness, compassion, and courage. In the final step of our journey, we turn toward the quiet aftermath, the life lived in wholeness. not the battle, but the becoming. Our journey has led us deep into the heart of the self, where the monster lives, not as a creature to be feared or defeated, but as a mirror reflecting parts of us too long hidden in shadow. From Jung's insight into the shadow, we learned that denying these aspects only gives them power over us, while embracing them brings wholeness. Nietzsche then challenged us to go beyond simple notions of good and evil, inviting us to recognize the wild, creative force within that calls us to live with courage and authenticity. Through myth and archetype, we saw that the monster is not an enemy at all, but a guardian of transformation, a symbol of the chaos from which new life is born. To accept the monster you are is to accept your full humanity, the light and the dark, the tenderness and the fierceness. It is a call to look inward with honesty and compassion, to listen patiently to what the hidden parts of yourself long to express. As the philosopher Soren Kierkegaard once said, "The greatest hazard of all, losing one's self, can occur very quietly in the world, as if it were nothing at all." The monster is a reminder that losing ourselves happens when we refuse to face what lies beneath. But it is also a beacon, showing the way back to ourselves. So, as you move forward, may you carry this quiet courage, the courage to meet your own depths without shame or fear. In doing so, you may find that the monster is not a threat, but a teacher. Not a shadow to flee, but a mirror in which your true self is waiting to be seen, embraced, and loved. Take this insight gently, as an invitation to continue the conversation with yourself and to live a life that honors all that you are. Thank you for joining this quiet journey inward. If you feel moved to share your own reflections or experiences, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below, and also hit subscribe.